cruel doctor Caitlin Todd continues to torment Charity Dingle next week, forcing her into a heartbreaking decision as she prepares to sell her beloved Woolpack. The ruthless former medic enjoys tightening her grip on Charity, demanding an enormous amount of money in exchange for keeping quiet. Charity becomes increasingly desperate to protect Sarah and Jacob from discovering the truth about baby Leyla's real father, leaving her with no option except taking extreme measures. Still, the question remains whether she can make a deal strong enough to finally remove Todd from her life. Caroline Harker explained that the situation feels incredibly intense, adding that Todd now believes she holds all the power. She suggested the character may never have gone this far with blackmail for cash before, although manipulation has always been part of her personality. Since leaving the hospital, Todd has far too much free time, which makes her even more dangerous. After previously failing to buy Todd's silence, Charity suffers another setback when her request for a loan extension is rejected. Her final hope is to sell her portion of the Woolpack in order to raise the money. Ruby briefly seems interested in buying it, but Caleb immediately dismisses the idea, while Todd keeps increasing the pressure on Charity. Caroline also revealed that Todd likely never expected herself to become this dark. She believes the death of Todd's father, along with everything involving Jacob, pushed her into dangerous territory she never thought possible. Despite that, Todd appears to enjoy the control she now has over people. Normally, Charity would easily stand up to someone like Todd, but the secret surrounding Leyla's paternity gives Todd a major advantage. Desperate and running out of choices, Charity makes the shocking decision to offer Kim Tate her share of the Woolpack for a reduced price. Even if Kim accepts the offer, Todd's growing presence in the village may mean Charity's problems are far from over. Caroline admitted she enjoys watching Todd clash with Charity and praised working alongside Emma Atkins. She described it as a privilege and said the storyline has been fascinating because the writers always knew exactly where Todd's journey was heading. Dawn Taylor's life is left hanging in the balance next week after she is discovered unconscious at the bottom of the stairs at Home Farm. The terrifying incident happens shortly after Jo Tate uncovers her hidden revenge scheme, raising fears that Dawn may have been attacked by her own fiancé. After learning the truth about Dawn's plotting, Graham encourages Jo to strike back against her. Jo insists he already has the situation under control, but panic sets in later when Graham finds Dawn collapsed on the floor. The shocking scene leaves serious questions about whether Jo is responsible. Meanwhile, tensions between Kane and Jo continue to spiral dangerously at the Woolpack, with their bitter feud threatening to explode into violence. Moira steps in before matters get completely out of hand, giving Kane a warning look that forces him to calm down. Even so, both Moira and Dawn remain deeply concerned that the situation is becoming impossible to control. Back at the Dingle house, Kane struggles to contain his fury, realizing his patience with Jo is rapidly disappearing. He fears he may not be able to stop himself from losing control much longer. A source explained that Moira becomes convinced Kane's anger could ruin Dawn's entire plan. Wanting to avoid disaster, she urgently tells Dawn to leave the village with the children immediately. However, Dawn hesitates once reality sinks in and ultimately admits she cannot bring herself to go. Moira is left stunned by Dawn's refusal to escape. As Moira questions her about the risky decision, Dawn reveals she wants to stay and fight Jo in her own way rather than run from him. Later, Dawn speaks with Jo about their upcoming wedding, while he talks about building a big and happy family together. Feeling increasingly guilty, Dawn heads upstairs to help Clemmy with homework, just as Graham arrives back at Home Farm. It soon becomes clear that both Graham and Jo fully understand what Dawn has been secretly planning. Neither man reacts well to betrayal, and they appear willing to do whatever it takes to protect themselves. Encouraged by Graham, Jo promises he will deal with the situation personally. Soon afterwards, Graham is horrified to discover Dawn lying unconscious at the foot of the staircase, while Jo stands above her. With revenge now on everyone's mind, suspicions immediately fall on Jo. However, it remains unclear whether Dawn's devastating fall was caused deliberately or if another shocking twist is behind the tragedy involving both her and her unborn baby. Sarah Platt continues to struggle in Coronation Street following her recent attack, and Carla Connor Swain begins to fear that her employee is no longer coping. Ever since the dramatic night that ended with Theo Silverton losing his life, Sarah has been deeply shaken after suffering her own frightening ordeal. She was left unconscious after being struck on the back of the head by Jody Ramsey when she entered number 8 and discovered the house completely wrecked. Thankfully, Shona Platt later found her and immediately told David Platt to call for medical help. Believing that the men searching for Jody had returned and accidentally harmed Sarah during the chaos, Shona remained unaware that Jody herself had actually caused the destruction inside the house. When Jody later returned to Weatherfield and fabricated a story claiming she had been kidnapped after witnessing the attack on Sarah, Shona believed every word. Meanwhile, Sarah has been left disturbed after Jody insisted to Kit Green that she knew nothing about who attacked her. With no answers and no clear suspect, Sarah feels increasingly unsettled by the whole situation. In scenes airing next week, the emotional impact of the attack becomes more obvious as Fizz State points out to Carla that Sarah appears to have completely lost her confidence. When Carla later suggests that Michael Bailey should take over some of Sarah's responsibilities at work, Sarah reacts badly and feels insulted by the idea. As the week continues, the pressure becomes too much for Sarah after she makes an error with an important order. Michael quickly steps in to help cover the mistake, but the situation only adds to Sarah's frustration. After Sarah lashes out in anger, Carla advises her to take a break from work. Later, Carla becomes even more concerned when she discovers Sarah drinking heavily in the Rovers. By the end of the week, Carla calls Sarah into the office and delivers another blow by announcing that Michael will now oversee their latest contract. She also insists Sarah take time away from the factory, making it clear that she believes Sarah is far from her normal self. The question now is whether stepping away from work will finally give Sarah the chance to recover emotionally from the terrifying attack. Robert Sugden and Aaron Dingle decide to strike back in Emmerdale after a second suspicious fire leaves them convinced someone is deliberately targeting the farm. Following a shocking arson attack at Emmerdale Farm, Moira Dingle originally feared she was the intended victim. However, it soon becomes clear that the real target may actually be Robert, or possibly even Joe Tate. Robert recently took control of the farm after Joe manipulated him into framing Moira for human trafficking before buying the property while she was struggling. Joe later placed Robert in charge of running the farm, but someone clearly isn't happy with the arrangement. At first, villagers believed the firestarter was attacking because they blamed Moira for her alleged crimes. But after another barn is set ablaze while Moira is nowhere near the scene, suspicions quickly shift elsewhere. Robert and Aaron discover the latest fire dangerously close to the feed store, leaving them shaken by how serious the situation could have become. Had the flames spread further, the damage would have been catastrophic. Furious and deeply unsettled, both men vow to track down the culprit and make them face the consequences. As panic spreads, speculation grows over who could be responsible. Initially, many suspected Joe, though that theory soon begins to fall apart. While Aaron struggles to work out who might be behind the attacks, Cami Hadid arrives at work exhausted and looking rough. Already frustrated, Aaron loses patience and accuses him of not doing enough around the farm, raising questions about whether Cami could be hiding a grudge. Elsewhere, Ross Barton and Sam Dingle secretly inspect one of the barns. Ross suggests they need a believable excuse for being there and hands Sam a lighter, creating suspicion that the pair may somehow be connected to the fires. Robert and Aaron arrive moments later, forcing Sam to flee quickly, while Ross is left behind to explain himself. When questioned, Ross insists he was actually searching for the arsonist too. Surprisingly, his story is accepted, and he even goes as far as encouraging Robert to pay him to continue investigating the case. However, before long, another blaze breaks out, confirming fears that a serial arsonist is operating in the village. Ross then suggests a terrifying possibility that leaves Robert shaken. Perhaps his ex-husband Kev Townsend has returned seeking revenge. Despite that theory, Aaron remains convinced they are overlooking another suspect. He points out that nobody truly knows Cammy and begins to wonder if he could be involved. With suspicions now falling on multiple people, Robert and Aaron grow even more suspicious after catching Ross and Sam sneaking into another barn. The mystery deepens as they try to uncover which suspect is really behind the dangerous attacks and what their true motive might be. Emmerdale airs every weeknight at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX.